Bobby Jindal, he was in the first debate last night, and they got some fiery results and a little bit of nastiness back and forth. I want you to take a peek at this.
We've got 4 senators running. They've never cut anything in D.C. They give these long speeches called filibusters. They pat themselves on the back. Nothing changes. When they go to relieve themselves, their cause and the toilets get flushed at the same time, and the American people lose.
All right, he's with us right now. Do you regret that wording?
Not at all. Look, I think people need to lighten up. This is the important issue. It's not enough just to send any Republican to D.C. Every Republican up there says we want to cut government spending. If we send a big government Republican, nothing will change. You know, we've got Republican majorities in the House and the Senate. They told us, give us the majority, we would change things. They told us they'd stop Obamacare and amnesty and the Iran deal and Planned Parenthood. Nothing has changed.
You know what bothered some of them when they heard you say, not only get rid of the Democrats, but get rid of all the Republicans in there?
Absolutely.
You just alienated the people you would have to work with.
Like, if we're not serious about making change, I don't want to.
But were you serious about that? How do you think a Paul Ryan would feel about it? How do you think about all these other guys?
We need term limits. And I don't care who it is. Look, there are 535 members. There are 300 million plus Americans. We can find another 535 people. The reality is when the Republicans are there,
but if you became president, you'd have to work with the people who are there right now. Well, they're going to remember all that stuff you said.
And one of the first things I'm going to do is force term limits down their throats because, look, remember when they passed Obamacare, they loved it so much they exempted themselves from it. Wouldn't it be great if they applied the same rules and regulations to themselves they apply to the rest of us? This is why Republican voters are so angry at the establishment, at their own party.
Well, I did, it was at a very aggressive give and take, particularly between you and Governor Christie, and it seemed like he was a little shell-shocked that you were going after him. And I think that part of your strategy might have been, I'm gonna come out the gates, guns a-blazing. And his view was, I don't want to engage this guy and help his poll numbers. So he kind of tried to swat you away, ignore you. What was the end result?
Well, look, I don't blame him. He can't defend his record. The reality is they did increase spending. The reality is that their budget went up, our budget went down. But this isn't just about comparing New Jersey and Louisiana or Chris and Bobby. This is really about where do we go as a country.
Well, how were you guys during the breaks? Because it reminded me a lot of professional wrestling, where they're going at each other, and then during the break, they shake hands and walk away.
It's not personal. I think Chris is a nice guy. This is not about whether he's a nice guy or not. This is not about who's a nice guy. This is about who's willing to go to D.C. and fight for us. Neil, we've got 7 governors running. None of them has cut spending in their state capitals except for me. None of these senators have ever.
Well, I thought John Kasich had.
No, when Cato and others have done this analysis, the only one that's actually reduced spending is Bobby Jindal, is what we have done in the state of Louisiana. Others may have slowed the growth rate. They may have done other good things in their states. We actually have 30,000 fewer state bureaucrats, 26% smaller budget, 8 credit upgrades, top 10 state for job creation.
How do you punch through, though, Governor? You and I chat about this. You're obviously a very smart guy. You know what you're doing. You're a road scholar, the whole 9 yards. You do have a track record. But we've seen with track records, among others, who've been very successful, whether you like or dislike them, Scott Walker in this fine state, Jeb Bush, all the problems he's having, Rick Perry had to drop out of the race, that it's almost as if track records, governors, either present or past, that's not cutting it. The sex appeal seems to be toward these unconventional candidates, the Ben Carsons, the Donald Trumps. Do you feel like they've stolen all your oxygen?
Not at all. Look, I know the RNC, the establishment, they get so frustrated. They want to clear the field. They want to limit the number of debates and who can be up there. That's a mistake. I trust the judgment of voters. I think voters are rightfully angry. They know that things haven't changed enough in D.C. I think they want an outsider. Look, the political establishment's told me for a long time that we couldn't get ethics reforms or statewide school choice. We couldn't defund Planned Parenthood or cut government spending. We did all those things in Louisiana. So the establishment's...
Well, is there such a thing, Governor? Do you have to punch through in Iowa first? Is it New Hampshire? Where?
We're spending a lot of time in Iowa. We've been in 58 out of the 99 counties. We've been over 100 events. We're in the top 5 in the polls there. Look, they vote first. Our nominee has always won either Iowa or New Hampshire these last 50 years. I don't think that changes.
Do you have to win Iowa?
We are going to win. And the reason we're spending so much time
But if you don't
there,
win Iowa, are you finished?
No. Look, we're going to win and we're going to be the nominee. But it's not just because we're spending time there. It's because voters not only look at the track record, but they understand that I'm looking them in the face. I'm willing to answer the tough questions. And I'm also saying I'll take on, whether it's the establishment in the Republican or the Democratic Party. You know, you've got honest socialist on one side. Give Bernie Sanders credit. At least he's honest when he calls himself. But the Republicans are the ones that have been lying to us. They say one thing to get elected. They do another thing when we put them in office. So your choice seems to be honest socialists or lying conservatives. I think voters want better than that.
And how was it with you and Chris Christie when all everyone wrapped up last night? Because you were really taking it to him, and he was trying to deal with you, but it looked like he was getting mad, but he didn't want to reveal that.
Look, at the end of the day, it's not personally. He's a nice man, but again...
See, when you guys say, yeah, I like him, he's a nice man, and then you rip him asunder, I mean...
But look, the differences are real, and the differences are important. This is two philosophically
But I guess what I'm asking you,
approaches.
when all was said and done, did you shake hands and walk out fine, or did he say, I never want to talk to you again?
No, of course I shook his hand. And of course, look.
Did he shake yours back?
He did. And
was it a firm handshake, or was it one of these,
it was,
put like a buzzer in? Or?
Look, Neil, the reality is these are two very different philosophical approaches. And this election is more important than Bobby Jindal or Chris Christie. It's about the future of America. Look, I do think this is the most important election. The hour's late, but not too late. But if we're not serious about shrinking government, everything else we talked about last night, tax rates and energy policy and Obamacare, it's important. We need to repeal Obamacare. We need lower taxes. We need all of the above energy policy. But if we're not serious about cutting government spending, we're just going down the path towards socialism. And the rest of it won't matter if we're not serious about shrinking the government economy and growing the American economy.
All right. Thank you, Governor. Very good seeing you. I know you have a crazy travel schedule, as all these candidates do.
Well, and you did a great job last night. I'm not just saying that.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, as did you.